What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to continue my 2023 college football predictions for the 2023 college football season. Up next, it's the Oregon State Beavers, coming off a pretty good season last year. They went 10-3 overall in 2022. So a 10-win season for this Oregon State team. People did not expect this team to get to a 10-win season. I did not expect them to get to that 10-win season either. But looking at this team this year, I think they're definitely a top 15, top 20 type team this year. They're definitely a Pac-12 championship contender. You don't want to sleep on them. They also brought in some guys to help them out. DJ Ogilvy coming in from Clemson. How good will he be with this new system here at Oregon State? That's a lot of question marks, but they got some talent on the offensive side of the football. A lot of production coming back there on that offense. We'll see how explosive that offense can be for this Oregon State team. Defense, though, is a big question mark, but we'll see how it goes. Let's get right to the schedule here for this Oregon State team. Again, coming off a 10-3 season last year in 2022, looking at the schedule for this Oregon State team, pretty easy schedule for the Beavers. They don't have a tough non-conference schedule. They do play San Jose State on the road, UC Davis, and then San Diego State at home. San Diego State's a group of 5 team, but I really don't consider them to be really, not a team that really pulls off an upset here. This is an easy non-conference schedule. And then, of course, you got the Pac-12 schedule. And if you look at the Pac-12 schedule, no USC on the schedule this year, and they get mostly their hard games at home. They get Utah at home, UCLA at home. They also get Washington at home. So definitely a favorable schedule for this Oregon State team, and I think this is the reason why this team has a chance to be really good this year. So let's get right to the schedule, and let's go game by game and give you an official prediction for this Oregon State team. So they start things off here with 3 of their non-conference games. They'll play San Jose State on the road, then it's UC Davis, San Diego State, and they play these games in 3 straight weeks. So, yeah, San Jose State's a pretty good, FCS team, but I really don't see them having any, chance of whatsoever beating Oregon State in this game. I just think Oregon State is way too talented. I think they have no business to lose all of these non-conference games, and I got Oregon State winning all 3 of those by big margins. So I got the Beavers starting out 3-0. Then it's Washington State on the road next year on September the 23rd. I think people are kind of sleeping on this Washington State team just a little bit after what they did from last year. They went 7-6, but this is a chance that this Washington State team could be a really good team this year. Maybe that's one of those dark horse contenders in the Pac-12. And to be honest, I think they're only one of the dark horse contenders in the Pac-12 this year. They could potentially be a top 25 team. Very tough place to play here if you're Oregon State. It's one of those 50-50 games, and obviously one of those games that's tough to call, and definitely an upset alert type game here in the month of September. And teams are not better by the time they get to the month of October here, but I like Washington State in this game. I'm going to go with the upset here. It's just one of those 50-50 games here, and I like Washington State here in a close one over this Oregon State team. So I got Oregon State losing their first game of the season on the road at Washington State. Then they'll play Utah after that on September the 29th. This game will be on a Friday night, and pretty much it is going to be a Friday night game perhaps. Utah's got Cam Rising back at quarterback. They're definitely going to have some weapons on the offensive side of the football. Defensively is what concerns me about Utah just a little bit, but I think, it's kind of a really good shootout type game. Oregon State, though, does have home field advantage in this game, and that's what kind of makes the difference in this ball game as well. It's one of those 50-50 games for me, and with that being said, Oregon State with home field advantage will get it done. I like the Beavers in this game in a close one against Utah here on September the 29th. And I got Oregon State improving to 4-1. They get to the month of October. They'll play Cal here on the road on October the 7th. Cal's got a lot of question marks. I just don't expect this team to be all that good this year. I think they're kind of, near the bottom of the Pac-12. I don't think they're one of the worst teams in the Pac-12 this year, but they're definitely near that bottom spot in the Pac-12. This could be an interesting, road challenge here for Oregon State. I don't think that's the case whatsoever. I think Oregon State is way too talented, and I think Oregon State knocks off Cal here on the road on October the 7th. Then it's UCLA here on October the 14th. Oregon State will play this one at home. UCLA, a team that has a lot of question marks. They do lose their starting quarterback from last year. And UCLA, though, is kind of an underdog in the Pac-12, I think, this year. They were definitely right there for a championship spot in the Pac-12 last year, but I don't think that's the case this year with this UCLA team. But This is definitely going to be a pretty good game. It's going to be a shootout type game perhaps, but I think Oregon State with home field advantage gets it done at the end of the day. I just think home field advantage does play the favor in this one, and I got Oregon State beating UCLA here. They get a bye week before playing Arizona on the road on October the 28th. Very interesting game here. I think this is kind of like a trap game for Oregon State. It's one of those upset alert type games perhaps, but really, I really don't see Arizona being all that good this year. I know they went 5-7. I did predict them to go 5-7 last year, but this year I'm just not really high on the Wildcats this year. I don't think Arizona's going to just be all that good. And honestly, it's hard to tell how good they're going to be. They're kind of similar to other teams in the Pac-12 that are kind of in a rebuild year, but Arizona's not in a rebuild year, but it's just one of those games that Arizona's just hard to tell how good they're going to be. But I think Oregon State does get it done here on the road at Arizona. And I got Oregon State here in a close one over Arizona. And I got them improving to 7-1. Then they get to the month of November. They'll play Colorado on the road. So you got back-to-back road games here with Arizona and Colorado. Colorado is a new rebuild team. Obviously, they're getting a lot of hype. I really don't expect the Buffaloes to be all that good in their first year with Coach Sanders. I'm really being honest. I think the hype is just way too much here for this Colorado team. However, this is a team that you don't want to play in the month of November. Perhaps they're better by this time, but I think Oregon State is just way too talented on the offensive side of the football. I think that Colorado defense is going to have a hard time stopping the offense here. And I got Oregon State defeating Colorado here on the road on November the 4th. So I think that's a win there for this Oregon State team. It won't be easy. I just think Oregon State is way too talented. Stanford, after that on November the 11th, is kind of similar to the Cal game. They're in a rebuild year. I mean, Cal's kind of in a rebuild year as well. This game is at home for Oregon State. I really don't see them having any problems here against the Cardinal of Stanford. I got Oregon State winning that one big. I think Oregon State wins that one big, and that could be their biggest win in the Pac-12 this upcoming season. So I got them moving to 9-1. Then it's Washington at home here on November 18th. Washington's got a lot of production coming back. This is a revenge game here for this Oregon State team. Obviously, they got beat by this Washington team on the road last year. This year, they're looking for revenge. So, yeah, Washington's going to be pretty good. But this is a home game for Oregon State, which makes this game more interesting. And it could be a shootout. I think Washington does have the better defense in this game, but maybe Oregon State's defense time is really going to be having, a time to step up. And it's one of these games that you just think can go either way. It's one of those upset alert type games. And with that being said, I'm going to go with Oregon State here in an upset. I mean, I already predicted Washington's record. You already probably saw me pick this game. And I did predict Oregon State to win it. So I got Oregon State beating Washington here in a close shootout type game. And I think Oregon State improves to 10-1. Then it's Oregon on the road after that to end things out here on November 24th. This is a Friday game. It could be a Friday night game perhaps. You got the matchup here between the Ducks and the Beavers. Really a great rivalry in the Pac-12. And it's also a rivalry game that you never know what can happen. Oregon's going to be a team that's going to probably ruin, Oregon State's college football playoff chances. Maybe they're sitting there in the top 10 by this point, and maybe they're on a winning streak. I mean, this is a tough place to play when you think about it. I mean, it's obviously a rival game. You never know what can happen. So, I mean, Oregon and Oregon State last year, the game was back and forth, and this year I think it's kind of similar to that. You got two great quarterbacks with Bo Nix and DJ Ogilvy if he's the starter by this time. We'll see what happens, but, the home field advantage does play the difference here for this Oregon team. I think it's a close game. At the end of the day, Oregon wins it here in a close one on the and Oregon State loses that one on the road in a close one against their rival Oregon. So I got Oregon State finishing with an overall record of 10-2 in 2023. I know fans won't agree with that record, but it's just because of the schedule. If you look at this schedule, like I said, no USC on the schedule, not a tough non-conference game on the schedule. They do play Washington State and Oregon. I think those are definitely their toughest road games. Maybe Colorado could be in there as well. You probably don't want to sleep on that game. There's a pretty good chance that this team could go 9-3, maybe 8-4 if they did lose to Washington at home. But I like how this schedule sets up for this Oregon State team. So let me guys know what you think about this Oregon State team. What do you think their record is in 2023? My official prediction for them is 10-2. Let me know down in the comments below. And stay tuned here for more sports content on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.